From the beautiful island of Trinidad and Tobago, welcome to the GCN show.
Welcome to the GCN show.
This week we discuss cycling's 7 deadly sins and also the speed mullet, which, would you believe it, is completely unrelated.
We also have news of how cycling can help boost your immune system. We ask, was Graham Obree more genius than athlete? And actually loads more besides.
Let's crack on. This week in the world of cycling, we learned that having lights on your bike during daylight hours and wearing high vis, contrary to some studies, does indeed do what common sense would suggest that it does and decrease the risk of accidents.
Yeah, that's right. A very ambitious study showed that accidents were reduced by 47% and 38%, respectively, compared to using neither.
Yeah, and we also learned this week that whilst we might have been able to take thermal gloves off for the first time this year here in the UK, the first world naked bike ride of the year was taking place in Brazil.
Please don't make any jokes, Si.
No, all right. Although I will just say one thing, actually, Emma, that we do a lot of dangerous things here at GCN, but if we went to that one, it wouldn't be hairy at all. Right, sorry. Moving swiftly on.
This week, we're talking about cycling's 7 deadly sins. Now, the real ones, in case you needed reminding, which, I mean, they definitely still apply to cyclists, are lust.
Nothing to do with naked Brazilian bike riders, I don't think.
No.
Well, maybe
indeed.
a bit, but you know.
Greed, gluttony, wrath, sloth, pride, and envy.
Yeah, and I suspect we are all guilty of those. But what about those cardinal sins that only apply to cycling?
I'm going to get us started. Dropping slow riders and leaving them in the middle of nowhere.
Yes, that is a good one.
I think you know the scenario. New recruit turns up at group ride, group sets off, new recruit starts to struggle, group carries on and doesn't wait, new recruit gets home 8 hours later in the dark and never rides a bike again.
Yes, always wait for the weaker riders. It's why, actually, I don't know if you've noticed, but we always set off really gently when we're riding with Matt so that he can actually catch back up after he's managed to clip in.
Sake.
Okay then, number 2, having a noisy bike. Now this one does my absolute nutting. If my bike is noisy, no seriously, if my bike is noisy, then it better be a damn good ride in order to make me forget about it. But if somebody else's bike is noisy, that I'm riding with, going back to those original old school 7 deadly sins, we're going to have like a case of wrath on our hands.
You mean a noisy bar like this one, Si?
Doesn't need manhandling around. It needs gentle, caressing touches.
Ah, yes, I actually needed counselling
Oh.
after filming that. Yeah, it was tough.
That's sad. But number 3, we think, is being unprepared. We're thinking mainly of spares like tube or a rain jacket or some food. Now, I think you'll agree that, you know, lending someone a tube is part of being a friendly bike rider.
Yeah, absolutely.
But doing it week in, week out for the same person does start to grate a little.
Yeah, and can we include coffee money in this as
Yes.
well? Never bringing coffee money to a coffee ride. There's no excuse after a couple of weeks of that, is there really?
No.
You haven't got any food, have you? I'm quite peckish, and I forgot that as well, actually. Oh, you got money? Can I go and buy something?
Sitting on and sheltering from the wind is a fantastic part of cycling with other people. But what constitutes a cardinal sin is when you sit on and then use all that strength that you've saved to the detriment of the rider in front that you've just been wheel sucking.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. But while it's a sin in training, you do see this a lot in racing, and there it's labelled racecraft.
That is actually true, isn't it? Although, still controversial. Just look at Jerome Cousin's stage win at Paris-Nice. Was it smart, Emma? Or was he being a little bit sneaky? Yeah, exactly. Anyway, I'm going to propose number 5, neither smart nor sneaky. In fact, it's the complete opposite of sitting on. It's the smash and blow.
The what?
Yeah, the smash and blow. That's right, you smash yourself on the front until you blow your doors and you get dropped by everyone, including yourself.
Yeah, that's kind of a relief. But, I mean, they wouldn't actually leave you, though, because that would also be a sin.
No, that is a very good point. So actually you just ruin their rides as well. Now, it's a rite of passage, to be fair. I actually still do this all the time, but hopefully most of you would learn from it and not do it anymore.
Is that what happened to you in Taiwan?
No, that was actually the sit on and blow, which is more embarrassing than the smash and blow, because
It doesn't sound great, to be honest, no. Moving away from riding sins, how about this? Supporting Lance Armstrong.
oh my god, can of worms everywhere, Emma.
Yeah.
Like,
But it's true though, isn't it? I mean, for a lot of people, supporting Lance Armstrong is a cardinal sin, even for people who are somehow fans of other cyclists who also took drugs.
That is true, actually. And in fact, just like the real cardinal sins, supporting Lance, like listening to his podcasts, is for many people like a guilty pleasure, isn't it? Like something of a vice. Now, we know a lot of you won't care about this one at all. And we know that for a fact, in fact, because we asked you. So I wonder whether at this point we need to actually open out the conversation and say we need you to get involved in the comments section to actually help us define this list of the 7 deadly cycling sins. What do you think needs to go on there?
Because we've still got one left.
We have no socks and white shorts. There we go.
Easy. I was on the Cervelo test team as well, and I was a triathlete. I
think when you're world champion, you can almost wear white shorts.
I can wear what socks I like, thank you very much. Anyway, viewers, the floor is yours. Give us your 7 deadly sins.
I'm looking forward to reading these. This is going to be good.
It's now time for cycling shorts.
Start cycling shorts with news of no cycling shorts.
That's right. As we mentioned at the top of the show, some shocking news coming out of Sao Paulo, Brazil, where a naked bike ride was held at the weekend. Although there was a very serious message in there indeed, because participants were protesting against reckless car driving and demanding that city authorities do more to protect vulnerable road users. Because apparently, I couldn't quite believe this, thousands of cyclists die on Brazil's roads every year.
Yeah, which is pretty terrible.
Yeah.
And apparently this is only part of the World Naked Bike Ride series, and they're all over the world every year.
Yeah, the UK one, I looked up for you, Emma, was actually June, which is just as well, actually, because we would have thought that cold weather would be something of a deterrence for even the most hardened of naked protesters.
In yet more good news for the health benefits of cycling, researchers have found that regular long-distance cycling can help to keep your immune system young.
Nice.
The research was published in the journal Aging Cell.
Aging Cell. Definitely one of my favourites. Love that journal.
And the paper was called Major Effects of Immune Senescence, including reduced thymic output, can be ameliorated by high levels of physical activity in adults.
Nice, well remembered now.
In other words, they studied long-distance cyclists who were in their 70s and 80s and found that they had immune systems more similar to people who are in their 20s. Good.
Yeah, that is actually amazing. Now, other good news is that you don't actually need to cycle ultra distances in order to get those benefits. The researchers said that actually anything that gets you a little bit out of breath would do the trick. Well, clearly we're going to recommend cycling.
Yeah.
Nothing else, you can do it sitting down.
It's funny though, because sometimes when I was in my 20s and racing a lot, I felt like I had the immune system of an 80-year-old.
No, that is very true, actually, isn't it? Now, we do often talk about the latest research here on GCN. So how do you fancy actually getting stuck in and taking part yourself? Well, you can, because Dr. Howard Hurst and Professor Stephen Chung are conducting an international study survey on concussion awareness, attitudes and knowledge amongst cyclists and triathletes. Must be a big issue for triathletes, actually. Nothing to do with not wearing any socks at all. Anyway, if you fancy getting stuck in, there is an online survey to complete, and you can find a link to it in the description beneath this video.
Well, I took the survey myself earlier today, and I was quite surprised actually, because having had a few concussions over the years, I thought I knew about it, but there were so many things I got wrong. For example, I didn't know that you're more likely to get a second concussion if you've already had one before, and that if you have a second concussion when you haven't healed from the first one, there's a risk of dying, and you don't even have to hit your head directly to get a concussion.
Crikey, there really does seem actually there was quite a lot you didn't know about concussions then. Or, in fact, you probably did know it already, you just then forgot about it, having had another concussion.
Yeah, good point. Anyway, the thing is, this survey is actually really interesting and useful, so please take 5 minutes to fill it out.
Yeah, definitely worth doing. And then when you've done that, we've then got a video for you to watch, actually. The Scottish clothing company Endurasport, who supply clothing to Team Movistar, for example, took the legendary Graham Obree into a wind tunnel, incredibly, for the very first time, to actually test whether or not his success in our record and individual pursuit and time trials was down to his innovative cycling position or his athletic prowess. It's called Graham Obree, Genius or Athlete.
Strangely, one of the most impressive things for me about this film is that Obree can hold and pedal in these crazy positions, especially the crouch. I mean, and keep his head low at the same time. That's really difficult.
Yeah, Graham Obree, athlete, genius or contortionist. Probably a bit of all three, I would guess. Now, the film then carries on. They also test his Superman position. They test Obree on a modern time trial bike as well as a point of comparison. So it is super interesting and definitely worth checking out. Some news now from the OVO Energy Women's Tour, which takes place in June. It's already one of the most prestigious races in the calendar, but now they've made some real headlines because they've just announced that there is equal prize money between the Women's Tour and also the Men's Tour of Britain, which takes place 3 months later.
Yeah, this is a really big gesture by OVO Energy, who sponsor both the men's and the women's races. I mean, honestly, the Women's Tour of Britain was already one of the headline stage races of the Women's World Tour because it's really well mediatised, it's got great TV coverage, and there's huge crowds out, and the racing is super exciting. So they're already leading the way, and I think now with the prize money too, good for them, I say.
Yeah. Elon Musk is no stranger to grabbing headlines. In fact, sometimes it's quite difficult to separate fact from fiction, isn't it? Particularly when it comes to his boring company.
That's boring as in digging, as opposed to being dull. I mean, the fact that his company has made commercially available flamethrowers will attest to it not being the latter.
Yeah. Irresponsible perhaps, but certainly not boring. Anyway, plans are afoot for the Boring Company to dig tunnels underneath Los Angeles and Washington DC for a start. The theory being that if you develop 3D traffic, you can effectively create denser traffic networks by going underground and thus solving congestion problems.
Yeah, and quite apart from the question of how that's going to be planned, a lot of people have criticised the idea in that they think that it's only going to favour the wealthy and that it's going to move the problem of car congestion just to a different place. But Elon Musk took to Twitter this weekend to say that his scheme would prioritise pedestrians and cyclists.
Yeah, unbelievable. Now, I can't quite see how you would entice pedestrians and cyclists underground, but imagine if all motorised traffic was underground, therefore leaving the road network in the fresh air completely quiet and safe and available for us to use.
Right.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see where this one goes, really.
Probably underground.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Anyway, we're going to leave cycling shorts this week on a rather more poignant note. Last year, pro cyclist Michele Scarponi was tragically killed whilst out training. This year's Tirreno Adriatico race passed through his hometown and duly paid tribute.
Yeah, now he was famous in recent seasons for his social media videos as much as his racing exploits that featured a pet macaw called Frankie. Now, despite Scarponi's absence from the race, Frankie, almost unbelievably, was there and actually accompanied the peloton at one point, as you can see here, being captured by the Willier Celitalia team car.
We'll start Take of the Week with the gloriously named Speed Mullet. Nothing to do with Aussie pro Nick Stocker, nor indeed our own Simon Richardson circa 2009.
Yeah, that was a mullet, just not a speedy one.
Evidently. Anyway, this latest innovation is actually from Ass Saver, only this time the aim is to improve life for your feet, not your ass.
Yeah, that's right. So the contraption attaches quickly to your down tube and then kind of dangles behind your front wheel where it can stop spray coming up directly from the wheel onto your feet. And technically, Emma, I think this is something that I should probably want living in England. But just like a real mullet, I find the look of it quite sort of unsettling.
Yeah.
But maybe all it'll take is a few high-profile Belgian cyclists to start sporting it, and like the real mullet, I'll eventually want one too.
From low-tech to high-tech now, Leomo have created a device that allows you to monitor athlete position whilst on the fly.
Yeah, now monitoring the movement of a cyclist might be familiar to those of us that have had a bike fit, but if you haven't, I'm going to elaborate. So basically you place sensors on key parts of the anatomy, and that allows you to track pedalling motion and body position while cycling. However, it's always been constricted to indoors when you're riding on a trainer. Until now, when Leomo launched their Type R, which allows you to do it outside.
It gives a whole load of data, including torso position, which could give coaches and bike fitters another tool for analysis.
Yeah, it could actually give us a cheeky little GCN science video. Imagine being able to compare whether or not a cyclist rides in the same way indoors versus outdoors. I can almost feel an experiment coming up. Experiment.
Would it help? Anything?
No, but it'd be interesting. Like most of GCN. Well, would it help? No, not really. Is it interesting?
Fair enough. Okay, sorry. Right, for the details of last weekend's racing, you can watch Sai on yesterday's racing news show.
Yeah, we've got Paris-Nice, we've got Tirreno Adriatico, we've got Ronde van Drenthe, we've got Tour de Taiwan, and the Magnificent Seven as well. So make sure you check it out.
Yep, so past racing on the Racing News Show, but looking ahead to next weekend, we've got the third round of the Women's World Tour coming up. That's 3 in 3 weekends because they come thick and fast in the spring. And this is the GP Alfredo Binda in Italy. It's a super exciting race, punchy course, and it's been a bunch sprint in the past, it's been a small group, it's been a solo rider occasionally. And many riders to watch out for. I put my money on the people who were in the top 10 of Strade Bianche, but it's also Marianne Voss's return to racing after her cross season, and she's always one to watch. She's won Binda 3 times, and let's face it, she's always one to watch and admire.
Yeah, and on the men's side of things, the first monument of the season, of course, is Milano-San Remo. Always an absolute perler to watch, and always a very difficult one to predict as well, given that it could be won by a sprinter or a classic specialist, or even potentially someone who fancies themselves as a bit of a climber. So I'm not even going to have a stab at it, but we do have top 10 riders to watch coming up this week, so make sure you check that out as well.
How do I intro it?
It's time now for Hackleburg, normally
Right.
does the trick.
Okay. It's time now for Hackleburg, my favourite part of the week. And here we have this. I'm going to lead with this and say this is Doug Wigan 66, and I'm afraid that is definitely a bodge. I would say.
What is it? In
Well,
the first instance, I think.
I think it's his like the box's chips came in, his fries came in for our American viewers, and he's used it as a mudguard on his mountain bike. And
A bit like a primitive speed mullet, which is in itself a primitive mudguard. Yeah, okay.
Like a chipped mullet, I think. It's a chipped mullet.
Definitely a bodge, that one.
But recycling, full marks of recycling.
It could be just that they rode over a box of chips, wouldn't it? Anyway, right, let's move swiftly on. This one from Patrick VK. He said, an utterly terrifying piece of handiwork here. A cracked top tube bandaged up, literally. Now, if it is bandaged up, then that is terrifying. But it looks on this like maybe someone's just carefully protected the top tube of their Cannondale synapse from being scratched by a D-lock. So I'm going to reserve judgment on that. Either way, it's a bodge, because that's a pretty scrappy looking bandage.
It's scrappy looking and it's a bit bent.
But yeah, please don't ever mend your top tube with bandage.
No,
it doesn't work on aluminium, carbon, steel or titanium, so we're told.
Your first aid skills will not help with bike repair.
No, definitely not. Whoa, this one, controversial.
Yeah, I think you should talk about this one because...
Well, as everyone knows, chain keepers are not exactly my forte. But I'm going to withhold judgment here because this, I think, it's a stroke of genius sent in by Not Y Mary. I don't know quite how to pronounce that, but basically they've bodged a spare skewer, a pen, so like a biro, and an old jockey wheel to fashion a genuine chain keeper. And you know what? That is suitably bodged to the point where actually it makes me like it. It's the first chain keeper I've ever liked, Emma.
Well, congratulations, Not Emeredge, if that's your name. That is quite amazing. That
there you
basically
go.
Transformation.
You put a grin on my face with chain keeper, so well done.
Yeah. Now, this was one I'm pretty impressed with, I have to say. This is also unpronounceable, Keboduk. Anyway, had an undersized Cannondale Slice tri-bike bought on clearance when he was a baby sitting in the garage, converted to an aero road bike for him when he turned 10. That is a victory of hanging on to old bike parts and reusing them to make the perfect bike.
And it looks like he's made a really good road bike, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I have to say his son looks pleased with punch, which is always good. And I'm particularly in favour because those are 650 wheels.
Yeah, that's awesome. Oh, I like that. Super cool.
Yep.
Next one, we've got Midtown Skyport. Has made a bike mounting point in his garage out of PVC pipe, scraps of wood, epoxy, screws. Looks quite neat, actually. I like that. Yeah, fair enough. That's a hack.
Hack, well done.
Yeah. Oh man, these terrify me, Emma. The idea of getting oil in your bath.
Yes, I think this is Sabita, and I think, I mean, clean bike, filthy bath. You'd spend as long cleaning the bath as you did cleaning your bike.
Yeah, basically, was it stitching time saves 9, something like that, or 1 step forward, 2 steps back, something along those lines.
You're going to pretty much annoy your partner.
Okay, that was sent in by Sebi Taba, by the way. Yeah, we're not totally keen on that. This one, the Svensation, spotted this epic bodge out on the streets. Now, that does indeed look a little bit terrifying. I'm not entirely sure how that's worked, but nevertheless, they've tried to fix a broken seat post there with some fairly industrial grade bodging.
I don't know how they've attached the chain to the top tube, to be honest.
Can I say that it's 1 step up from using a bandage?
Yes.
But possibly not as good as taking it to a frame builder.
I think it's just...
Or putting it in the bin.
I think it might just be decorative.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to do anything and have like an engineering point.
No, this one though, this is a trail side hack actually from Kiwi Rag.
Who who was doing the Tour Aotearoa, which we mentioned the other week.
Yeah. If you break a pedal, this is more bandage actually. What's going on this week?
Well, he had his first aid kit with him for the tour, and he had to finish. I think this is bloody impressive because he wanted to finish middle of the night, I think he says, and he had no spare pedal, and to stop his foot from slipping off the pedal spindle, which was all he had left after his pedal broke, he wrapped it in bandage.
Well, fair
Good
enough.
job.
Let's call that a trailside hack then. And finally, then we got this from Luciano Serafino. He uses this to hold my wheels when gluing tubulars on. It also helps me see which wheel goes faster.
Yeah.
Is that like a car roof rack?
I think this is old forks stuck on the wall.
No, that's not a pair of forks, is it?
That is the bottom one. Oh no, you're right. Take it back.
Yeah, it's a roof rack on the wall. Oh well, it's a fair use of a roof rack, I guess.
It's storage for both things. I think it was a hack.
I think it might be a hack, actually.
Congrats.
Yeah, nice work. I see some good hacking going on this week. Make sure you keep them coming. It's Emma's highlight of the week now, as well as the rest of us.
I love it.
Yeah, nice work.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I love it when I see people make real bodges that are worse than my mechanical screw-ups. Thank you very much.
yeah, keep them coming using the hashtag GCN hack.
Now it's time for Caption of the Week, where you can win a brand new Camelback water bottle. You can see last week's picture from Strade Bianchi, and Simon's going to give us the winning caption.
Oh yeah, some belters as ever last week, but the winner is this from Alluvial Fan. Oh Roman, oh Wout van Aert, thou Roman, oh. Come on, that's pretty
Congrats.
good. It was tough actually to surpass Lloydie's effort.
I think you guys should not be allowed to do such good captions because it makes it very hard for the viewers.
Well, don't worry, Emma, because my caption for this week is possibly not at the same standard. Here we have a photo of Mikhail Kwiatkowski getting, well, not entirely sure whether he's getting a push or that's an over-enthusiastic fan trying to catch him. But anyway, I'm guessing it's his mechanic. You ready for this, Emma?
Yeah, go for it.
Mikhail, mate, you only have one back wheel. How are you going to balance?
Fantastic. Guys, beat that and you could win a water bottle.
That was good, wasn't it?
And girls, beat that.
Yeah, that was good, wasn't it?
Fantastic.
Yeah, cool, thanks. Now, before we get on to what is coming up on the channel this week, we, as always, want to take a bit of time to go through some of the amazing comments that you've been leaving under this week's videos.
Yep, and under my Ask with Lizzie Dygan, we asked you who you'd like me to interview next, and CNE suggested Donald Trump, which is definitely an interesting call.
That's a great idea, Emma. If you can set that one up, I think you should go for it, actually.
Donald, if you're watching, just give us a Trump and, we'll be on the line.
Give you a Trump? Crikey. To be fair, he actually, presumably is a cycling fan, having sponsored a cycling tour way back when. Yeah. So yeah, maybe... maybe he's watching this right now, Donald, and would like to interview you, and we'd all want to watch as well. Yeah. Right, anyway, moving on. This one under the Fabric HQ tour from OJ Tibby. They collaborated with Vans for that bike. There was a Vans collaboration bike, which was amazing. It looks like it's still hanging there, so could you get it off the wall? Vans fans, you know what I'm talking about. It's a great comment. I love it. Yeah, all right.
I'm not culturally aware enough. Anyway. And then the last comment is from Michael McDermott, who says, very proud of today. My 12-year-old has been watching GCN with me for a while now, has asked for a road bike for his birthday, so he can come with me for a ride.
That's super cool, isn't it? Nice one, Michael.
Great
Very
to hear.
pleased for you. Yeah, all right then, what is coming up on the channel over this next week, Emma?
Well, on Wednesday, we've got how to improve your confidence on descents, which is something that I care a lot about, having gone through that process myself. On Thursday, we've got the top 10 riders to watch at Milan-San Remo.
Yeah. Then on Saturday, I believe it's the first in a new series featuring your good self, which is initially how to train when you're time poor but have a big target because you are gearing up for the Maratona de los Dolomites
That's
this
what
time.
I'm doing in the summer.
Nice. So there we go. That's going to be
Yeah.
great. That's like a 12-part series, isn't it? So I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to that. Then on Sunday, we tackle a pretty difficult question. Can you test positive for drugs in a drug test, having taken a contaminated supplement?
Yeah,
So it's like the dog ate my homework excuse of the doping world, but is it actually possible?
Yeah, that's a really interesting topic. I'm looking forward to that one.
My mind was blown, Emma, with
Yeah.
science. Like I
Yeah.
couldn't even.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
Yeah, I've been to that lab as well, and it's really interesting.
I bet you understood it, didn't you?
No, I didn't, but it was really fascinating. As an athlete, I think it's super interesting. And yeah. Anyway, and then on Monday, it's back to racing news again. All the races we previewed, you can watch Si or Dan take them on. And on Tuesday, it's the GCN show again.
Now, we are getting towards the end of the GCN show, I'm afraid, but we still have time for Extreme Corner. And this week, actually, it's something from our sister channel, GMBN.
As usual.
Yeah, but this one, well, it's a subject close to my heart, actually, because Blake gets some massive air on my eBay bike.
Oh my gosh, brakes don't work. Oh man. Wow. This ride's faster. Look at that. Look, I got a puncture on that. This is rubbish. Rubbish bike.
Whoa! I tell you what, I didn't know that bike was capable of that. I almost managed to bunny hop it. So
Right, I think that just shows the level of skill that's needed to, make
Yeah.
a bike perform well. And the bell, I like the bell a lot.
Oh man.
yeah, it did look sketchy, that, but fair play, Blake. Yeah, like I said, I did not know that bike could do that.
Good work. Anyway, you may have noticed that I'm wearing a rather fine bling new hoodie with gold
have.
GCN lettering on. This is the new women's range, which is just in, and there's been a lot of demand for it. So if you would like to buy some women's sized GCN kit, we have t-shirts, we have hoodies, we have sweaters, all in ladies' sizes, which is great because it means I don't need to cut my t-shirts off anymore. Then you can click down here to go to the shop.
Nice. shop.globalcyclingnetwork.com. Now, also, before you leave this video, please do make sure you give it a big thumbs up. And then, if you want to watch something else, before you obviously fill in that concussion survey, then why not checking out our 6 sneaky tips on how you can ride faster. That one is just down there.
I need that one.
I'm not sure you do, Emma.
You might
You
do.
can't say that when you've been a world champion.
Yeah, that was then.